Okay, lesson 17 is basically saying the line joining two distinct points on a graph of y equals mx has a slope of m. Now this is actually called the slope-intercept formula, where m represents the slope and b represents the y-intercept. Basically, where on the graph does the line cross the y-intercept. As we use the lesson summary, it says the line joining two distinct points on a graph of a linear equation in the form y equals mx plus b, once again called the slope-intercept formula. Let me write that down. Slope. All right. Intercept, I-N-T. Okay, once again, this is the slope, always m, and the intercept is the b. Okay, and it says right here, it has the number that describes the slope. For example, in the equation y equals negative 2x plus 4, the slope of the graph is the line is negative 2. And it right there, the negative 2 takes the place of the m. It's the coefficient of x, the number that comes in front of x. So now look at what we had for a really working problem. To get us started, all we really had to do, it says, find at least 3 solutions for y equals 2x. So now they could choose any number they want and say that y equals 2 times, I don't care, instead of x, just replace the x with 3 different numbers. So had they chosen, say, 0, 1, and 2, they would have got y equals 2 times 1, y equals 2 times 2, or in y equals 2 times 3. They were easy to choose themselves, and then you would write here y equals 2, y equals 4, y equals 6. So when x is 1, you can now write here, just so to avoid the confusion, when, or just say if x equals 1. If x equals 2. If x equals 3. Now look what it asks here. Find at least 3 solutions for this one. We can make up any numbers we want. Again, we have the basically slope-intercept equation, y equals 3 times x. I always put in parentheses so it doesn't mess up anyone later on in the thing. And once again, I'll say, what if x equals, say, 0? I will say x equals, doesn't really matter, 1. And just pick another odd number, say x equals negative 3. Okay? So the first one, if we say x equals 0, this becomes y equals 3 times 0 minus 1. Well, that equals negative 1. Okay, if we make it 1, we have y equals 3 times 1 minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Y equals 2. Okay, now we stick in a negative 3. Y equals 3 times a negative 3 minus 1. Well, 3 times a negative 3, this comes to negative 9. Negative 9 minus 1, y equals negative 10. This is just substitution. If you can think of a number, put it in there. That's all. And here it is. Now we do it with the table. Same thing. They give you a graph. Y equals negative 4x plus 8y. It says solve the following equation for y. Now that means you have to put it in y form. Now solving, as the kids have in their notes, or should, is simply undoing what's being done to a variable. So when we look at it, we have negative 4 times x. This whole value is being added to 8 times y, and that whole value together, that sum of these two equals 24. Now seeing how I am solving to find out what this value is right here, just the y, and that's all I want to know, then I will do what we do. We undo anything that's being done to this y. So I'm going to put it in red so remember, we're just trying to get it by itself. So in the end we have y equals. Well, the first thing is we have this entire value added to it, to this 8y. So let's just, since how it's negative here, okay, and just keep in mind that whenever we're adding numbers, these are technically called terms. Wait, terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So wherever you see a plus and minus sign, you see a term. So on this side I have negative 4x. The rules of equality says if I make it go away by adding its opposite, then I have to add its opposite over here as well, plus 4x. That way it stays what we call balanced. So now that goes away, leaving me with 8 times y equals 4x plus 24. Now, of course, as long as you move to take the sign with it, it's interchangeable. Just like 4 plus 5 is the same thing as 5 plus 4, 24 plus 4x is the same thing as 4x plus 24. They're still on the same side. I haven't changed anything. But now this y is still not by itself. This is 8 times y. So technically you can put it like a parentheses to show that it's multiplication. So I can either divide by 8 or multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 8. So technically I'm just going to say I divide by 8 to make it simpler. And I have to divide each term by 8, not just the 4, but the 24 as well. So I put the 8 on every term, and once again, terms are basically the number separated by a plus or minus sign. So now obviously 8 divided into 8 is 1, so I have my y. 4 over 8 makes that 1/2, and then the x comes straight down, and 24 over that is 3. Now here's the beauty of it. This is called the slope-intercept formula, so we can ask the question, based on your transformation, what is the slope of the linear equation? The slope is 1/2. Okay? And it says, complete the table to find the solutions. So now it's just a matter of sticking in numbers for this. So if we try our first number, it's not going to be that difficult. We'll try 0. All right, we like that because that's going to prove that this number is our y-intercept. If we take half of 0 and add 3 to it, well, half of 0 is 0. So we have the 3, so y equals 3. So we'll put our 3 right here. Okay, now the equation would look right here. Y equals, say, 1/2 0 plus 3. And we'll do the same thing here. 1/2 1 plus 3. 1/2 2 plus 3. 1/2 3 plus 3. Okay, now half of 1 is 1. So 1/2 plus 3 equals 3 and 1/2. Okay. Half of 2 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Half of 3 is 1.5. I'll switch the colors up so you can see what we're doing. Half of 3 is 1.5. So basically 1 and 1/2 plus 3 equals 4 and 1/2. Now here is the thing about writing down what I told them in class. Had they put this in their notes, slope is, and I'll repeat it, slope is the change in the y value for each consecutive change in x value. Now notice, these are consecutive, 0, 1, 2, 3. So they basically went up by 1, again by 1, again by 1. We said our slope is 1/2. And notice that this went up by a positive 1/2. From here to here went up by a positive 1/2. And here to here went up by a positive 1/2. Okay? Then they had to graph it on a plane. That wasn't that hard to do. Okay. Next thing it says is graph the points on the coordinate plane. So basically all I have to do is find my x and y axis, and I can take my points and I can plot them. I have 0 and 3. So that's 0 and 3 is my first one. The next one is 1 over 3.5, so I'll go 1 over 3.5, put a point. The next one is 2 over up 4, 2 over and I'm at 4. Next one is 3 over, and I'm at 4.5. Go to 3, and I go to 4.5. Now here is the actual easy part. You just connect your 2 points. Your 4 points, and you draw your line through the graph. You don't draw a line segment, you draw it through the graph. And here is the even easier part. You write on this that this is the graph of y equals, you can't see that I guess, y equals 1/2 x plus 3. 1/2 x plus 3. Now you can do that, and it's relatively simple. Now, some of the classwork stuff was even easier. I'm going to start with the stuff that asks us to be sure to understand. It says the graph of y equals 7x minus 3 has what for a slope? Remember, if it's in y equals mx plus b format, slope intercept, the slope is the number in front of x. So you would simply say the slope is 7. Again, they ask the graph of the equation y equals negative 3/4 x minus 3. Once again, this is our m, our x, our plus b. So obviously it's m. So once again you write slope is, or you can write equal, negative 3/4. Okay? Now, these are word problems. They're not difficult to do. We did them in class. Okay, but it says basically here you have $20 in the savings in the bank. Each week you add $2 to your savings. Let y represent the total amount of money you have saved at the end of X number of weeks. Okay, write an equation. Well, if y equals mx plus b, remember we put it in y as this. Y equals the rate of change. The rate of change. All right, that's our slope times some input plus any starting number that we have. Okay, b. Well, we start with $20, so that's going to be our b right there. All right, so that means in week 0 we already got $20. Okay, so we can put 20 right there. And we're adding $2 basically per week. So each week will be represented by x, and we'll have $2. So this is quite simple. We write it neat. The total money you have at any given time is basically $2 times whatever week it is, plus the original 20 you started out with. Okay?